Could you move? Hey, bud. Okay, hi. Hi. Hello crafters and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell, we have a special guest. His name is Axel. He's my girlfriend's cat. We're gonna see how long he stays because he doesn't really like it when my yarn will brush him on his back. So if he's gonna be nice, he's allowed to stay. Today I am knitting the I'm So Basic sock pattern by Summer Lee. The yarn is by Cat's Cradle, this variegated yarn, but the pink, I don't remember what it's from. The label is stuck in my yarn case, so who knows what it is until I fish it out of there. My local yarn shop does a Sock-tober contest, and so I decided to knit my very first pair of socks. I know these are slightly boring, but I kind of just want to get them down. See what I said? I'm sorry for the sound quality. I have a mic and I thought it would work, but with the camera, it will be incredibly loud and almost deep fried. With my phone, it's still really loud, but at least it's a little bit better. So I just decided to go with my camera's microphone instead. I am still working on it, but unfortunately, microphones cost a lot of money. So if you'd like to support me, you should like and subscribe to this video. Without further ado, crafters, knitters, crocheters, embroiderers, painters, and every other craft under the sun, let's talk about the symbolism of water and over the garden wall. Over the Garden Wall is a 10-episode miniseries that premiered on Cartoon Network in 2014. It follows two stepbrothers, Wirt and Greg, as they travel through the unknown in order to get back home. Past this point, there will be major spoilers for Over the Garden Wall, so if you haven't seen it already, I would suggest that you do, or if you're brave, watch this video and go watch it yourself. It is by far one of my favorite series. I find something new about this series every year that I've watched it. I've watched it since it premiered in 2014. There's a lot of things to discover. One of the most prominent theories online is that the unknown is purgatory. In fact, Over the Garden Wall follows the same plot structure as Dante's Inferno, with their guide character even being named Beatrice. A couple of years ago, when I was in college, which is weird to say because I just graduated college, I took this class called Speaking Rivers, where we talked about literature and rivers that appeared in them. So today I wanted to talk about the unknown and the river that flows through it, and how it represents the boundary between life and death. My analysis is going to be based off of the Greek underworld. In the Greek underworld, there are 5 rivers: the river Styx, the river Akron, the river Lethe, the river Coctus, and the river... Yeah, I can't pronounce that. If you would like to pronounce it in the comments or, like, I'm going to butcher it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to butcher it. Episodes 1, 5, and 6. The Old Grist Mill, Mad Love, and Lullabies in Frogland. Episode 1 starts with the boys wandering through the woods and coming upon an old grist mill where the woodsman is grinding edelwood trees into oil. Next to the grist mill is a river, and this is the first river that we see in the series. The woodsman states, "You are far more lost than you realize." If you can't tell, I am doing this all from memory. I did not do my yearly rewatch of Over the Garden Wall yet. I'm doing this all from the noggin. These first couple of episodes represents the river Styx, the boundary between life and death. Once the boys cross over this first little stream, they trudge deeper and deeper into the unknown. There's this great image in episode 2 when they are leaving Pottsfield, and the leaf gets stuck in the fence, representing that they are stuck in the unknown.
One last thing, beware the unknown. Fear the beast and leave these woods if you can.
In episode 5, Wirt and Beatrice scheme to steal 2 pennies from Quincy Endicott, while Greg is off gallivanting with him. This is where we're first introduced to the concept that the ferry to get to Adelaide's house needs 2 pennies to cross, much like Karen in the Underworld. In Greek mythology, Karen is the ferryman who takes you from the shores of the Underworld to death. In order to pay him, you need to have 2 coins. That is why corpses are typically seen having coins over their eyes, so that they can pay the ferryman to cross. If not, they will be stuck on the shores for 100 years until they can cross and pay the fare. Now, Greg is our childlike wonder character. He is full of optimism and typically sees the world through rose-colored glasses. But it's really interesting that at the end of Mad Love, when Quincy Endicott gives him the coins, he throws them away and states, "I've got no sense at all," which is one of the few times that we see him coming to terms with his own morality. That, or he's just a 5-year-old and I'm reading way too much into this. It also brings about this idea of abundancy versus scarcity. Quincy Endicott has enough coins, as seen at the end of the episode when the fish pass by the millions of tons of coins at the bottom of this wishing well. Whereas the boys don't have this at all. In episode 6, they snuck onto the boat without paying the fare, prompting the police frogman to come and chase them.
Uh-oh, it looks like we're in trouble.
It's because the president is nude. It's probably because you snuck on without paying.
They are on their way to Adelaide, who is, unbeknownst to them, going to stuff their heads full of wool and make them her child slaves. It makes you wonder, what would have happened if they paid the toll? Episodes 7 and 8, The Ringing of the Bell and Babes in the Wood. These 2 episodes are marked with the feeling of dread after Beatrice's betrayal, which is why I think that these episodes represent the River Akron. In the Underworld, the River Akron cuts in between where normal ghosts live is relative, and the fields of punishment, where the worst of the worst go to be punished. The River Akron is the River of Woe, which is what these next couple of episodes are filled with. These next couple of episodes are also filled with a couple of baptisms. In Christianity, baptisms are typically a washing away of sins, and that's what the first one kind of is. Episode 7 opens with the rain, baptism by rain, which is washing away the sins of Beatrice's betrayal. Wirt is feeling despair at this. There is a second baptism towards the end of episode 7, not for Wirt and Greg, but for Lorna and Auntie Whispers.
You are my family.
Oh.
Lorna and Auntie Whispers have been stuck in their misery over this curse. Auntie Whispers because she wishes Lorna to stay, and Lorna because she doesn't want to eat people. They've created this comfortable routine, though it doesn't fix the situation, it just keeps the curse at bay. When the brothers jump into the river after being chased by Lorna, Greg holds up his frog and rings the bell. The ringing of the bell commands you. And Lorna is baptized and the spirit is free. However, this does not baptize Wirt or Greg. I keep doing this where I keep saying Greg when I mean Wirt. Episode 8, Babes in the Wood, opens with Wirt and Greg going down the river. Wirt is completely helpless at this point, allowing Greg to steer but not offering much insight. He even references this by making a poem about how they're hopelessly winding down this river while the beast sings at them from the shores.
The beast. It must be the beast out there. The obsidian cricket of our inevitable Twilight singing our requiem.
At the end of the episode, when Greg is going with the beast, it also starts to snow, which adds to this feeling of hopelessness. Finally, our last baptism is when Wirt falls through the ice. Episodes 9 and 8, Into the Unknown and the Unknown. The placing of episode 9 fascinates me as a storyteller. Here, you have all of the context for the story placed towards the end. We only get brief mentions of the life that Wirt and Greg lived before, and it's through passing by conversation. Episode 9 opens on Wirt in a stereotypical house, nothing like the American idealism that we've seen throughout the entire rest of the series. In fact, he even has a cassette tape, which is the first piece of technology that we've seen. We mention a phone in passing in episode 2, and we see him messing with that toy from the 90s in episode 1, but we don't see any technology, which marks this as clearly different from the rest of the series. I think putting it at the end, though, is probably one of the most interesting things about this series. That is why these 2 episodes represent the River Leap. For heroes who want to be reborn, they first have to go to the River Leap, which will erase the memories of their past life. At the end of episode 9, when Wirt and Greg jump over the garden wall, as the namesake suggests, almost get hit by a train, and then dive into the river, they are reborn in the unknown, forgetting their previous life.
There's an old black train coming, sweeping along the aisle. No need no tickets for the sleeping at this time.
And then suddenly, we're back at episode 1. Them lost in the woods, wondering how to get home. We've had no context up until this point for what home is or what their life was, only snippets. In episode 10, as the rivers further become icy, it is also solidifying their place in the unknown and therefore death. We can infer because of episode 9 that this also could be hyperthermia. Time moves weirdly in the unknown. It is only 3 nights according to the moon phases, so that is because Patrick McHale wanted the moon phases to match up with the nights they were premiering. I'm not going to talk about the big events of episode 10, only that Wirt and Greg have to choose whether they are going to forget their old lives and continue to live in the unknown, or if they're going to be reborn. And at the end of episode 10, they choose to be reborn, breaking through the river once again. Alright, and that wraps up our discussion about Over the Garden Wall. This is what I got in my sock. I got a couple of rows done, like 3 or 4. Oh, hello! Our friend is back! Oh my goodness, at the end of our episode! Well, whatever you were working on, whether that be a cardigan to keep you warm, a photo collage for fall, or brewing up a batch of apple cider, just know that I see it and I love it, and I'm so proud of you. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time!